welcome to Aldershot for the Inter-Services Under-23 showdown between the British Army and the Royal Navy. This is the final game of the tournament and the championship will be decided tonight. It's been a title race that's been full of twists and turns. We're in the corner and we have a try. We've got the first try.
Good setup and good take. So again, looking good and we're going forward here.
Yes, the try, they're down. The RAF have scored. And it's over, so it's 8-7 to the RAF. This is as tight as it could be in these conditions.
This is coming through a breakthrough opportunity then for the RAF. It's collected but well defended by the Navy. Ball goes out wide onto the right hand side. It's a lovely bit of work from the RAF, and the man who's gone over for the try for them is Ben Collins, some RAF Lossiemouth. Navy passing their way out, brilliantly played, and Jack Bartlett with the fullback now, Freddie Elliott going for it. It's a brilliant run from Elliott, and this is going to be a magnificent try. What a superb try from Freddie Elliott, the fullback from the Royal Marine Base at Commander Logistic Regiment, and that is a magnificent.
So are the Royal Navy capable of repeating their stunning performance from last week, or will the Army be able to pull on their strength and depth as reigning champions to get a win? Let's hear now from both camps.
Yeah, Lieutenant Owen Salmon. I'm the Assistant Director of Rugby for the Royal Navy Under-23s team.
Really stunning performance from your boys last week. I assume the message is to go again, really, more of the same.
Yeah, hopefully so. I thought we were very good physically last week. I thought our set piece was really strong as well, and we created really well, particularly in that second half. So hopefully more of the same on a similar surface here.
Yeah, the conditions have really dictated definitely the first match, and there was no rain last week and being on a 4G pitch. This is sort of more classic, and you've got a bit of fog and stuff like that. Do you take conditions into consideration?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the RAF Army game, I think the weather and the pitch was a great leveller, and it's a very close game, very difficult to pick out much from either team really. And as you saw, that came right down to the wire, and probably a few penalties cost the Army in the end. But yeah, playing on a surface like this is it's great for all rugby fans really.
What happens if the Army win this one? I mean, what are the machinations in the defence? Basically everyone's won one, but the Army have lost theirs and the RAF have won and lost one as well. So where are we in terms of the machinations of should the Army win, for example? Or how much do the Royal Navy win by?
Okay, thanks for that question. So if the Army win tonight by 10 points or more, they win the championship. If it's 9 points or more, then it comes down to a try count back. So we'll just have to see where we are on the night and see what happens at the final whistles. But yeah, it could potentially get quite complicated later on.
And I know you've spoken to John Knighton, who's on commentary. A couple of changes from last week. What was that? Just conditions or injuries or anything like that?
No, we had a couple of guys carrying knocks from last week. We left it to the final minute to make a decision. Unfortunately, two of them didn't pull through this morning. So yeah, 2 late changes for us. But I don't envisage a lot of difference in our playing performance.
Owen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
My name is Captain Gareth Jones, and I'm the head coach of the Army Under-23s.
I know that first game against the RAF, I mean the conditions really dictated play for that. How disappointing was it to come out, and there were a lot of penalties involved as well, with such a close defeat as well?
Yeah, the weather played a big part in the game, but to lose in the manner we did was very hard to swallow, especially for young men. It was a difficult night for them emotionally, but sometimes you've got to take them losses to make you a better team. So hopefully today will be a better result for us.
Conditions are certainly better. You're at home. What sort of does that motivation or the motivation from the loss carry you through to a game like this?
Yeah, definitely. But it's unknown territory for us because we didn't lose last year, so this is the first time we've lost, and that's not being big-headed. So a lot of these boys haven't felt that. So hopefully the loss now has ignited a little fire in them, and yeah, being home is always cool because we haven't travelled and we know our surroundings. So yeah, it's good.
Did you manage to look at the Navy's performance from last week? Is there anything you've learned from that going into this game?
Yeah, we do look at the video, but you can overanalyze some stuff and you can get paralysed by it. There was different field, different weather conditions, so we haven't taken too much from it. But we do know that the Navy are a quality outfit. They've got some good coaches in there and good players. So yes, it'd be a good game tonight.
You've been through the system yourself, you've been a player, you're now going on to the sort of coaching ranks and stuff like that, so does that help you sort of to relate to these guys when they lose but also when they win?
Yeah, service rugby I think is totally different to anything I've ever experienced in my other civilian rugby, so it's always good to have somebody within that setup that has experienced it to pass on a little bit to the boys and hopefully build a bit of a legacy going forward, but yeah, it's good.
The Army always have strength and depth. You've had made quite a few changes from 2 weeks ago. Was that injuries? Was that people who'd got yellow cards? Or is it just it's the nature of the game and the fact that it's a slightly different surface?
Well, at under 23 level it's very difficult because we've got a lot of the boys involved with trade training, so a lot are away on course. We've had a couple have stepped up to cover the ambulance strikes, so that has dictated a lot to us. We're lucky at the minute, we haven't got no injuries, so we are lucky, but we just got to play the cards we dealt and we are where we are.
Okay, well best of luck and look forward to it.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it, thank you.
Cheers. It's nearly go time here in Aldershot, so it's my pleasure to hand over to our commentary team for tonight, BFBS's John Knighton and former Army head coach, Captain Mal Roberts.
Yeah, I'll see you in a bit.
Thank you very much indeed, Kath, and a very good evening to you from the military stadium, rugby stadium here in Aldershot, as we look forward to what could be a cracking night of rugby here as we settle the Inter-Services Under-23 Championship. It's a great pleasure to welcome this evening the just retiring head Army coach, Captain Mal Roberts, who's joining me this evening. Mal, thanks a lot for joining us this evening, and it's a perfect night for rugby, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's set the competition up really well. Clearly, the Navy performed really well a couple of weeks ago in beating the RAF, and unfortunately, in atrocious conditions, the Army fell just short. But inter-services, and leading into this fixture, it will be a unique game, and winner takes all.
It is a winner takes all this evening. We'll run through the permutations for you very shortly. Why don't we take a look at the two teams as they prepare to come out onto the pitch. We'll start with the visitors this evening, the Royal Navy. And up until just a few hours ago, I think Owen Salmon, the head coach, was basically going to choose from an unchanged team from the side that put 24 points past the RAF last week, Mal. But that has all changed, unfortunately. And we wish Harrison Utton-Smith all the very best, because Harrison taken ill overnight. He's not well, unable to take part. So a couple of changes then come through into the Navy side as a result. Charlie Davis moves to number 5 with Charlie Kerr at 4, and Andy Hustle will move into the flanker position at number 6 for the Navy tonight. That really is their only change in their starting 15. A couple of changes on the bench which we'll reveal to you a little bit later on. So not too many changes for Owen to make, and you wouldn't expect him to make those changes, would you, Mel?
No, and it's come through unfortunate circumstance, and just want to take this opportunity to wish Harris a speedy recovery. But there will be that small disruption, but having seen how the Navy performed in their last outing, I don't think it'll have a massive impact.
Well, let's take a look at the Army team, because a bit of a contrast there for Gareth Slade-Jones, their head coach. He's had to make a lot of changes. I know there were some injuries that resulted a fortnight ago, but only 7 of the starting 15 from the game against the RAF will be in their side tonight. And the battle at the front on the front row is going to be absolutely vital, isn't it, this evening?
Yeah, no, definitely. You mentioned that there's been multiple changes, but with that presents an opportunity for others to come in and make a stake for the inter-service title. So, yes, although it may be slightly frustrating for Gareth, but I'm sure that he's done his due diligence, and the players that will come in will add value.
That's right. Andre Yusuf Romero, very important for them as in the hooker's position tonight. He keeps his place on the front row. Jordan Miller also in there at number 5. Number 7, Donald Barrett stays in his position, as does Kevin van der Leest in the scrum half. And also at number 10, it's Chris Hubbartstee, the vice-captain. And rifleman Mitchell Needham will be at fullback this evening. He's the captain of the team, of course. And very important to have that continuity, I suppose, in those senior positions.
Yeah, no, definitely it's key in any team sport. You know, you've got to have that spine that gives you that continuity and gives you a really good solid platform moving forward that can put you in the right areas.
Well, the mist is rolling in here at the Military Rugby Stadium tonight. It is St Andrew's Day today, of course, so I suppose there's a kind of a Scotch mist that's rolling in here, Mal, in deepest, darkest Hampshire tonight. But the players are preparing to come out onto the field. The Army players lined up and ready to come out, just waiting for the Navy players to set themselves up. We will be having, I'm very pleased to say, an ovation. It'll be a moment's applause in memory of Doddy Weir tonight. I think the whole of rugby was shocked and very saddened, weren't they, Mel, by his loss, which was announced at the weekend, of course, just before, of course, the England game against South Africa. And you know, Doddy was an extraordinary character, wasn't it? I don't know whether you had a chance to meet him at all.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to play against Doddy down at Devonport Services for Combined Services was at the time, and both Doddy skippered the Barbarians and I skippered the Combined Services. So, yeah, no, very fortunate to be in his company and what, you know, one of rugby's greats, but also, you know, he's taught people some really valuable lessons and messages over the last 5 to 6 years that he's been campaigning for MND, and there's some crucial messages that have been passed out, and long live his legacy and long live the good work that he started. I'm sure people would take the mantra on and carry it on. Well, absolutely, and of course, you know, the remarkable work that Kev Sinfield has done with that fundraising for MND and the support that's going on. Is it a sad irony, really, that the week that Kev completed that incredible 7 ultra marathons in 7 days, we lose Doddy on the Saturday? Yeah, it is, but you know, the message, and I think it was quite clear, you know, the work that Doddy had done, he knew that he couldn't complete the journey that he wanted to in terms of the MND, but there's several people out there, and it just proves how close a rugby fraternity is when you lose one of life's greats, that they come together even tighter and still continue that message and deliver, you know, what Doddy set out to do. Indeed. And he'll be in everyone's minds tonight when we have obviously the moment's applause for him, which will happen just before the national anthem. Players are coming out onto the field now. Under 23s and the Royal Navy Rugby Union under 23s. And a great ovation here for both teams as they enter the fields of play in this inter-services under 23 decider. Players going to be lining up, and they'll be introduced to our VIP guest tonight, Brigadier James Cook, who is the Vice Chairman of the Army Rugby Union, and Rear Admiral Matt Varr as well from the Royal Navy. They'll be coming out on the field in a moment to be presented to the players and the officials. All the officials tonight, by the way, come from the Royal Air Force. The woman in the middle tonight is Flying Officer Becky Piddleston, who is taking charge tonight, and her 2 assistants, Squadron Leader Jonathan Priestley and Warrant Officer 2 Paul Owens, with the 4th official who'll be Squadron Leader Fraser Todd. So they'll all be introduced, as well as is happening at the moment, to the 2 VIP officials. And of course we've got the mascots out on the field as well in front of all the Army players. Big moments these, Mel, aren't they, for both teams? So much at stake tonight in this Inter-Services Championship. Yeah, no, definitely, you know, and it is how people within this sort of like moment of pause in terms of emotional stuff is to keep your heads in that right space that you need to go out, and when the whistle goes, you know, you're ready to deliver. But it's set out really nicely, you know, and like I said earlier, winner takes all is no better and kind of setting for tonight's fixture. I'm really looking forward to it. Well, maybe just to let you know exactly what the sort of state of play stats-wise is concerned this evening. Basically, a Royal Navy victory or a draw will be enough to give the Navy the title, having obviously dispatched the RAF by 24 points to 7 last week.
the Army, of course, lost by 8 points to 7 to the RAF in the first match, which means they're on a -1 points. The Navy are on +17. That means that the Navy can afford to lose this match by 8 this evening, but if it gets to 9, that's when we get our calculators and slide rules out, because then it will go to a sort of a points difference, but also on points scored. In fact, tries, converted tries scored, which of course at the moment the Navy are in front there. If the Navy were to lose it, the Army to win by more than 9 points, then the Army will win the title. They'll retain that inter-services title. So all to play for, isn't there? Because there's so much at stake. Sadly for the RAF, they can't win the title despite having won their first match, which is, I suppose, very disappointing for them. But everything to play for tonight, Mel.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, I'm not trying to preempt what Gareth was saying, but I think his message will be kind of clear that it's go out and perform and the result will look after itself. And, you know, if you're fortunate enough to get yourself into a position where, you know, in the last 5 to 10 minutes you can go and win the inter-service title, then so be it. But I think you just need to concentrate on the fundamentals to start with, put yourselves in the right areas, give yourself a fighting chance, 1, to win the game, and then 2, you can go after what you need to go after.
And I'm sure that's exactly what we will see tonight. There's obviously lots of opportunities on the bench as well for changes, which we will, of course, see during the course of the match. We'll try and bring you those changes as we see them, but they do tend to happen very quickly and often. So changes at stake. You'll see there's some silverware on the pitch there to tempt the two teams. I'm just seeing a couple of eyes looking at those trophies at the moment, but that's all for later on, of course. The mist is just beginning to roll in a bit more tonight. We were expecting a bit of fog down here in Hampshire, but as you can see from our pictures, it's going to make life interesting, particularly if that fog thickens. It's going to make the commentators' lives interesting, Mel.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I'm hoping it's going to stay off, and once the players get on there and start running around, I think it'll be fine.
The Rugby Football Union's community.
Well, time to honour Doddy Weir.
And on the referee's whistle, show your appreciation for Mr. Doddy Weir. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please remain standing and stand for the national anthem, God Save the King.
Will certainly have warmed everyone up, and what a wonderful tribute to Doddy Weir we saw there from everyone. And we just send our very best wishes to Doddy's friends and family, of course, wherever they are tonight. And wherever you are in the world, we'd love to hear from you. Our live chat is available if you want to get in touch with us and let us know where you're watching this evening. We always love to hear from you. Gareth Thomas is watching, and so is Nick Dermott as well. So we'd always like to hear from you wherever you're watching our broadcast live here on Forces News YouTube channel and on our Facebook page as well. And it's a misty, foggy night here. Wherever you are, it might be rather different in terms of weather conditions, but we are just about set, ready to go then for this decider in the Inter-Services Under-23 Championship. Referee calling the two teams together now, and we wish Becky all the very best out there in the middle as she looks after both the two teams. As they take to the field now, having done their final warming up, limbering up training. Senior coaching staff just taking their seats now, not far from our positions. And Mal, you've got now a hot news on what the senior coach is thinking as well.
I know, I feel a little bit under pressure now. He stood right next to me.
Well, the Navy are just moving into their position now. The players changing ends. It's going to be the Navy to get us underway here in their traditional all dark blue. The Army, of course, in their famous red shirts. So much at stake tonight, and we're really looking forward to this one. Sally Venn is from Hereford this evening, is watching, and Andy Wilson-Lamb is watching from West Wales. Sue Williams at Whitehaven in Cumbria, as away we go then in these early moments of this match. Straight away the Navy being pushed back from position. The scrum half Van der Leest from the Royal Corps of Signals getting that ball forward. It's collected though by the Navy fullback Freddie Elliott. Scored a brilliant try last week against the Air Force as the players disappear into the mist on that far side of the field.
I was going to say, you just got to be really careful there with loose kicks like that, knowing the Army back three will relish those opportunities.
But the Navy have won a penalty, early penalty, and I'm sure they will go for the early points, won't they? Or is it just a little bit too far out?
Well, I think he's fancying it.
It looks like it. Kieran Manson, no, he's going for the touch. An early line-out opportunity then for the Navy. Emma Clare says, Emma and the family watching from southwest Wales this evening. So Jack Wright then will put in for the line out. And straight away the ball being pushed back by the Army forwards.
I was going to say, that was a great counter drive. Looks like the Army's...
Have the Army won it?
Starts in with a fighting chance then, turning that over.
No, the Navy, they still have it. Ball comes out to the number 8, Jack Mills, the vice-captain for the Navy. Had a great game last week. Here's Manson. Tackle coming in, though, from Van der Leest.
The Army's outside defence then was really good. Pushed up wide on the outside, forcing an attempt back inside. Just need to close that off on the short side as well, though.
Just crossing over into the 22. Still the Navy have it. Ball kicked forward. That was by Mills. And they're in for the try! Early doors. It's a great try for the Navy. Well, they have struck first.
I was going to say, well executed kick, identified space in the backfield, put it in the backfield, and then it was just a foot race.
It really was, and it was really well taken for the Navy, going over for that early try.
Was that Davies, the left winger, was it perhaps, or?
We're just looking to see really who it was over there in the gloom. Difficult to make out who was the try scorer. But they won't mind, because that early pressure has yielded an early try. Just 3 minutes on the clock, and the Navy have the all-important early try. So there is a chance then for them to add the extras here, the extra 2 points.
I was going to say a nice easy kick to start with.
Yeah, Kieran Manson then on that far side. Goes for the kick.
That's a great strike.
And it is over. That's a brilliant kick then from the number 10. Maximum points then for the Navy. They take an early lead here, and well, warning then for the Army, Mal.
Yeah, no, definitely, but a positive from an Army's perspective then, though. The defence is really good and force the Navy to kick. We just need to make sure that we manage that backfield space.
So if you just joined us, it's the Royal Navy who've struck first in this inter-services decider, leading by 7 points to 0. Really good start for them. What can the Army do in response? And they'll want to respond quickly to that early score, but it was an excellent drive through for them. We think it might have been Jack Davis who got that try.
That's a really good charge.
But a great charge down then for the Army as they aim to hit back immediately.
The Army just need to get hold of the ball for a couple of minutes, just retain it, go through the phases, get a little bit of confidence back, just handle the ball.
Right then with the put in for the line out. Navy setting up the early ball and still driving the Army back. This is a great drive from the Navy. Here's Wright. Referee brings it back, and it'll be another penalty to the Navy. Some early infringements here which won't please Gareth Slade-Jones at all.
No, I think, you know, the Army side dealt with that really well. Stopped the drive, the initial drive, then the Navy kind of had a second surge, and then the Army seemed to do that. I didn't quite see what happened and who pulled what down. I just thought it was really good sort of counter drive and force them to peel off into and then make a turnover.
Great early moments for the Navy here, leading 7-0. Moving it forward, nice work from Mills again. Establishing himself into this match early for the Royal Navy. Looking for that drive again on the far side of the field. Expansive stuff from the Navy.
For me, they just stay on their feet far too long in the tackle. Navy are making some really good grounds post contact, and I think if the Army side can stop them at source.
Well, they've got another penalty as well. There's just a need for the Army to get a bit of a grip here.
Like we were saying earlier, you know, from my perspective, the structure is really good in terms of the Army defence. Really good. There's players there in the positions they need to be to make the tackles. It's just need to probably go that little bit lower and chop them early to stop the Navy making those massive inroads that they seem to be making at the minute.
Army having to just do a little bit of work. There's a blood injury to one of their players. And that will take a little bit of attention. So just for the moment, the Army down to 14. Penalty to come for the Navy. And going on for them is gunner Henry Sanday. He'll move into that position. Sanday comes on then as a blood replacement. Bit of attention as well for one of the Navy players too on the field. And you can just see how cold it is turned here at Aldershot tonight. From just the look of the players.
Yeah, I know. I must admit, I wouldn't imagine the players are too cold. Not with the adrenaline going and the intensity and tempo of the game so far.
Sally Venn says, "Come on, the Army," and Carol Morrow is watching from Paisley. I'd imagine it might be a bit warmer up there in Paisley than it is down here in Hampshire tonight, Carol. But good to have your company this evening, and all of you who are watching all around the Forces world. The Navy have this early 7 points lead here. We've played 8 minutes of this first half in this inter-services decider. The Navy then with the opportunity then to extend that lead if they can. Again, Army, they're doing well. Good drive though for the Navy coming forward once more. And again, it's Jack Wright. Ball forced out wide onto that far side.
Again, there's some really good strong carrying from the Navy. Really good set piece.
They've made a great start to this game of the Navy. And they're threatening again to get a second try here. This time going in.
It's going to take a great effort from the Army to keep them out. The Navy seem really focused and really determined to get over that whitewash.
There's Mills again, right at the centre of it. Ball comes back out, and the kick. And is it a drop goal? It is a drop goal for the Navy, and that extends their lead to 10 points to 0.
That's a really well taken drop goal. I think the Navy were in the ascendancy there, and I'll probably be a little bit tempted myself to keep the ball and just keep hammering away at the line. But that being said, every time you get to a 22, you need to come away with points, and the Navy's done that so far.
Kieran Manston again is looking great with the boot tonight, and these are really positive early moments for the visiting senior service here, leading now by 10 points to 0. And Gareth Slade-Jones, who was sat right beside you, Mal, has decided to move himself down to the touchline. So
I'd like to think it wasn't my company, but I can't guarantee that. No, I think one of the players that went for the blood bin I think he needs to go down, and Gareth needs to get eyes on him. So
to see whether he's going to come back out again.
Definitely.
He's taking a look, and he's on his way back up here again. So 10 minutes played here, and 10 points on the board for the visitors in this inter-services under-23 decider. Of course, the Navy, who won the match against the Air Force 7 days ago, 24 points to 10. They've already got a try on the board, converted try and a penalty to lead this match. And frankly, the Army haven't really challenged where it really matters yet, have they?
No, I think it must be a little bit frustrating for the Army. They need to get their hands on the ball and just keep the ball and just go through the phases. One, they calm themselves down a little bit. 1 second, they get their structure. 2, or 3, they then build a little bit of confidence and get themselves back into the game. You build pressure, build momentum, get territory, and then put some points on the board, and then it'll just calm everything down a little bit.
Getting ready for the restart then. A few bits of attention.
I think you can see the Navy's probably played another 3 or 4 more games than the Army. The set piece seems to be really efficient at the minute, and they then come up into the 22, and like I said, every visit they've had in the 22, they've come away with points, which from a coaching perspective is absolutely textbook.
I mean, the game 2 weeks ago at Whitney was it was a bit of a lottery in many ways, wasn't it? The weather completely ruined it. I thought both sets of players did extremely well to play as they did in those conditions, but you can't play the sort of rugby that you'd want to play, in those conditions, can you?
No, you definitely can't. And both sides, both the RAF and the Army boys like to throw it around a little bit, but it proves, and even at under 23s, and there's valuable lessons to learn early doors in your rugby career, that you need to be adaptable and you need to play the conditions.
So Kevin van der Leest then will restart. Navy will kick that one clear. Looking for touch. It's a really good ball. Well kept in though by Humberstey, although the touch judge says it was out. And so again, great play from Jack Mills, who I thought had a terrific game for the Navy last week. and he started the way he means to go on tonight, and the Navy have won this line out right on the halfway line.
Yeah, that's a really great exit from them. A little bit of naivety from the Army there, just knocking it into touch, but a great exit from the Navy.
And that line out didn't look straight to me, and the referee agrees. So it'll come back to the scrum with an Army put in. I mean, you made a really good point there, Mal, about experience. A lot of these young Navy players, of course, were involved in their Commonwealth Cup competition against the New Zealand and Australian navies back early on in the autumn, and playing at a very senior level against senior players from the other side of the world, and it really has helped them.
Yeah, you know, you can see that in the team performance against the RAF. You know, their structure, their team plays seem to be really sort of like polished, and you know, they deliver, and they deliver under pressure as well. And that's the thing for me. I know that Gareth's preparation's been slightly disruptive with perhaps not as many games as he would like, and you know, and that's evidence when the Navy have had several games, and as you alluded to there, John, you know, the Commonwealth games and stuff as well. So there's a lot to be said, even whether it's, you know, 23s, academy level or senior level, that the more time you spend together, the more games you have, the better team performance, better team cohesion you have, and you know, that is evident.
And Gareth, of course, had to make a lot of changes tonight from the original team that played 2 weeks ago. It's virtually unrecognisable. A lot of these young players never played together, but the Army bringing it forward now with Van der Leest, the scrum half.
You know, that's a really good carry. That is a really good, strong scrum, really good carry into midfield, set a target.
And it's so much a question of whether they can release these backs. There's Yabiki.
And for me, you know, when the Navy are carrying the ball, they're making 10-15 yards. They're getting in behind the gain line, which then makes that attacking option better. If you see the Army now, from where we set off in the scrum, we've actually not made any yardage as yet after 4 or 5 carries.
But the ball goes wide onto that right-hand side. The fullback, Mitchell Needham, kicking it into opposing territory, but the Navy pick it up well. On that far side of the field, it's kicked forward again in the gloom.
That was a really good kick and a really good kick chase here. The Navy done really well to get out of that. Now we need to identify where the space is on the edge.
Here's Nasaku, finds his fullback, and driving forward now is Tokadua. Brilliant run from him, from Semi. We'll call him Semi. Goes to Yabaki, man from the Yorkshire Regiment tonight. Better possession from the Army here with Stevenson.
That's the thing. I think we're just slowing a little bit down, a little bit too much at the base. It needs to be, when it's available, it needs to be away. Don't give the Navy that opportunity to set defensively.
And they've been very successful at that so far. What can the Army do here? Trailing by 10 points to 0. Almost a quarter of an hour played in this deciding inter-services under 23 fixture. Digging in is Jordan Miller there.
They've done really well there. Apart from the forward pass, you know, the Army identified the Navy have pressed hard on the outside and brought the ball back up the middle, which, you know, unfortunately it was a forward pass, but you know, it's probably the right move. Bring it back to strength, and then we retain ball and go around the corner and build that pressure. But what I was alluding to earlier, John, you know, the Navy have been given that opportunity to those extra few seconds at the breakdown to reset their defensive line, and they're very organised. You know, they're really close, tight in, and have got really good width on their defence out wide, and they're causing some problems because there's not a great deal of space out there for the Army boys to exploit.
Owen Salmon will be delighted, I'm sure, with the start that his boys have made this evening, and they have this 10-point cushion already. I know how pleased he was with the performance against the Air Force last week. Unusual, Mel, you coached the under-23 side, didn't you, before you then took over as senior coach? It's gone in the opposite direction as far as Owen's concerned.
Yeah, and you know, what's the right and wrong way? You know, for me, it was the right way to do under-23s, to cut my teeth, to experience lessons that I probably didn't want to experience at senior level. I was able to cut my teeth, so to speak, at under-23s, and you know, identify things that I perhaps needed to work on as a head coach, and then take into the seniors. It seemed to work for me, but Owen's done the other way around, and you know, there's no right or wrong.
Well, success is success, but the Army have won the penalty from the Navy not releasing the ball in the ruck. And what will they decide to do here? Looks like they might go for goal, and it's probably a good decision actually from Kevin van der Leest, just to try and get something on the board.
100%. I was going to say, in terms of territory, we've not been in the Navy's 22 a great deal in this half. If we can, after 16, 17 minutes gone, if we can get some points on the board, that's a great result.
Martin Longmuir says, come on the Army. Craig Parslow, Gordon Cowie, Gavin Lewis. Nick Dermott says, come on the Army. And James Harvey says, and Americans wear pads and helmets. Very true. Good evening to my colleague Tim Cooper, who is watching this evening from somewhere down here in Hampshire. I wonder if it's foggy where you are this evening, Tim. The mist sort of rolling around here as the penalty comes in. It's a really well taken penalty, and it is good. Kevin van der Leest gets the Navy, or the Army, onto the board at 10 points to 3.
I was going to say, hopefully now from an Army perspective that should settle them. There's some points on the board, perhaps slightly against a run of play, but you know, they've got points on the board now. Hopefully that will give them some confidence to get the ball, retain ball, and start building the phases, and then get some territory.
And Mel, I can tell you it's absolutely fine for you to be speaking from an Army point of view tonight, because the last 2 weeks we've had the perspectives of the two alternative coaches as well. So just to get it absolutely right, in case you're thinking we're a bit biased here this evening, we are absolutely not. We're unbiased. But Mel, of course, definitely speaking from an Army point of view here this evening, which is absolutely the right thing to do. And the Army driving forward again. They've got those 3 points on the board, absolutely vital for them to get them into the game.
And, you know, it's like I said now, you know, the confidence seems to be growing a bit. You know, we've had 3 or 4 carries there where we're making 20, 30 metres. I think those points have probably settled the boys down a little bit.
Interesting to see how the Navy respond to those points. The ball is dropped by their fullback Freddie Elliott, an unusual mistake from him. Really hefty challenge coming in.
I was going to say, and that's a really loose kick as well. That you know, just hope that the Army make the most of it.
Cobby 2 going in with that. Don't think Elliott enjoyed that particularly, judging by the reaction that he had. But this is what this game is all about.
I'll be honest, it's probably that, as you alluded to earlier, a slight Army slant of mine with the unconscious bias, but yeah, no, I didn't really see what happened then. Bit of a late tackle, or
I don't think it was a late tackle. I think it was just a hefty challenge, shall we say?
Okay.
A meaty challenge, which you would expect.
I think they're still allowed nowadays.
Well, hopefully. If they're not, then I'm afraid bang goes rugby, doesn't it, really?
100%.
Andy Wilson-Land says, well done, the Army. Halfway through this first half, the Navy still have a 7-point lead here. The early try for them, we're pretty sure it was their winger Jack Davies who went in for the try. Well, we'll get that confirmed for you, but it was converted, and also a penalty coming in as well from Kieran Manson to give the Navy a 10-point lead. They win the line out. Great jump there from Charlie Kerr. And we wish our very best to Harrison Utton-Smith, who would have been playing tonight but taken ill yesterday, and so a late change being made to the side. But the Navy driving through again with George Prentice. Referee brings it back. It'll be a scrum, and the Army will have the put-in. Important scrum for them to win this.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, again, the Navy seem to win the line out at the minute with consummate ease, and I think, you know, from my perspective, I'd probably get an Army jumper up. That's just me personally, just to try to put them under a little bit of pressure, because they seem to be winning in ease. Then they have a really good set and seem to have a really good drive on. Then they knock someone up the midfield, and then they're into their game then, and I think they naturally get momentum from that.
Scrum then to the Army. What can they make of this? Looking to drive the ball forward. That's a really good bit of work from Van der Leest again.
Definitely the right decision. I think, you know, the Navy are used to him just being that distributor and a little show and go, and has made 10-15 yards. So
Henry Sanday, the replacement who's come on, the blood replacement, looks like he might be on permanently. Not quite sure whether, I think it was Freddie Mouland who has had to go off.
I think you can see there just a tenacious Navy defence. You know, their line speeds up, they close the Army down, they tackle them behind the tackle line, which is crucial.
And they have won the ball.
And then forced into an error.
Dom Cleverley, the captain, he's going to mop that up all day, isn't he?
If the Navy move it quick to the left, they've got numbers over.
Instead they decide to go for the right. It's the grubber kick. The Navy have collected it, have they?
No, I think that's an Army ball.
It's an Army ball. Yeah.
But the Navy then, if they went left, they had at least two players over. So it's that identification for them. You know, they've done all the hard work, they've done the turnover, they had a carry to tie players in the midfield, and if they had moved it left, I wouldn't say they would score, but they definitely give themselves a chance.
But as it is, the Army have a chance to get out of it.
That's a great clearance kick.
Yeah, from the penalty. It's a really good clearance up to the halfway line.
I think this is a crucial period now for me, for the Army to build that pressure. They need to, you know, it's their line out. They need to hit midfield. They need to set themselves a target, perhaps go along around the corner and really stretch that Navy defence, and then see potentially where the holes are. You know, that 18 minutes before half-time, they need to get themselves back into this contest.
Well, we have crossed the halfway period in this first half. The Navy still have a 7-point lead here. As you say, crucial moments then in this game. That's a brilliant take. Fantastic take from Andy Hussell. But the Army driving the Navy across into Navy territory. Navy, though, bringing it forward.
Yeah, initially, that was a really good counter drive by the Army that put them on the back foot. I'm not too sure why that was then stopped.
Manson with the kick. And here's Penrose Toms. The Army has stolen it, but had they won it legally, the referee has brought it back. And it looks like it will be a penalty to the Navy. A few afters going on there as well, Mel. I think we saw those a bit more clearly, and it was Kopitu who was involved again, this time I think with Charlie Davis and the Navy.
Yeah, I didn't really see clearly what went on, but I think, you know, especially from an Army's perspective, you need to be really careful. The Army need to keep 15 players on the park, so things like that shouldn't be happening, and they need to concentrate on their game.
Yeah, this isn't a boxing match.
No, like I said, I didn't quite see what went on, but, you know, you just concentrate on your rugby, let your rugby do the talking.
But it's still pretty tight. The Navy doing well again with their line out.
Again, you know, that initial kind of counter drive by the Army is really good. They seem to be really tight, really organised.
Still driving it, and
then the Navy
driving for the line is the hooker, Jack Wright. Real opportunity for the Navy here to extend their lead. Ball goes out onto the left. It's knocked forward, and a penalty again to the Navy. Offside against the Army.
The Army need to be really careful here. There's a few occasions now that the Navy have got into the Army's 22 and they've infringed. I think the ref's just about to have a word with persistent infringing in the 22.
Yes, words being had with Mitchell Needham, the Army captain.
Perfect opportunity now that we've got this a player from the Navy being down, being treated, for the Army to get together, have a chat, just pull everyone in close, make sure that we can then not concede this next score, and crucial, go away and then start building the phase and work our way back up the pitch.
Just while there is a bit of a break, I mean, Mel, as far as you're concerned, obviously your decision to retire as the Army head coach came as a bit of a surprise to most of us. I think we weren't expecting it, particularly obviously with the season about to start. What's the story?
Yeah, so kind of a couple of weeks prior to me stepping down as the head coach on the Friday, I had a bit of a change of heart. I've almost done 28 years in the Army, and I decided that I never wanted to be that soldier, officer, Ali, grumpy Ali that everyone knows can be and show their head towards the end of their career because they're just a little bit disgruntled and upset, and I'm not. I'm far from it, and I always said that I'll be honest with myself, and then once I stopped enjoying it, that I would look to leave, and an opportunity come up for a job working back home in Cornwall. So I've got a great opportunity to go back home. So yeah, I stood down on the Friday as head coach of the Army rugby team, the senior side, and then I signed off on the Monday from the Army after 28 years. So
well,
all change.
I mean, talk about signing off, you know, having won everything there is to win, you know, in military rugby and beyond as well. I mean, you know, your success as well in your civilian club too. And but it's great to have you with us here tonight and to get your perspective on this. And still very much an Army man, aren't you?
Like I said, you've got that unconscious bias. I don't think it'll ever leave you.
A bit of a change being made by the Navy. Lewis Clayton has come on as the Navy then drive, looking for a second try here. Army holding them up well at the moment. It's a really great drive from the Navy.
Yeah, really tight, really good drive, well
looking
organised.
For put the ball down.
People working really hard in front of the ball.
Are they down? The referee says it's been held up.
I was going to say there's a lot of bodies there, and unfortunately I don't think we've got the video referee.
And the try's been given. Well, it was a great run and brilliant driving work from the Navy, and they have got that second try, which gives them. The man who went over was Jack Wright. I think he got the final touch, picking up from a classic drive, really, from the line out. And that takes the Royal Navy to 15 points to 3 ahead. And that's a crucial time for them to score.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like I said, from kind of my perspective, and their set piece has been really, really good. It's a well-drilled set piece. You know, line outs, bring it down, drive nice and tight at the front. Boys working really hard in front of the ball, which then creates an opportunity. And you know, like I said, there's a lot of bodies on the ground there, and clearly the ref and the touch judge had deemed that the ball had got on the ground, and you know, the odds are it probably did, because like I said, well organised, great drive, good score.
And they have a chance to go even further ahead with Kieran Manson then to take this conversion. He's been successful with one from a similar angle on the far side of the pitch, and he's pulled that one away to the left-hand side. So the score remains the Royal Navy leading by 15 points to 3. Crucial second try.
As a retired goal kicker, they're probably not doing him any favours putting it right out on the extremities, but I'm supposed to take the 5 points as supposed 7.
And of course, with the added penalty that they've got, or the drop goal that they've got, it does give them the equivalent of 3 tries, isn't it? So it's a very satisfying first 30 minutes here for the Royal Navy.
Yeah, the Army just need to really dig deep now and find an answers to some of the questions that the Navy are posing. You know, from my perspective, the Navy set piece is especially their line-outs, is pivotal at the minute. They seem to be winning it uncontested, and they've got a really great organised drive.
Mick Napoli says, come on the Navy, and Richard Tiny Lovett says, regroup Army and drive forward. Well, that's what they're trying to do now. They'll be very anxious to get themselves back into this game before half-time. We've got around 10 minutes left of this first half.
Just a really good chase, really great organisation. Just don't give the Navy an easy out now by infringing and giving them a penalty for an easy out. We need to force them into Exton, and then we can then play from there.
As the mist comes down here again, rather more thick than it has been, turning into a bit of fog. Referee's whistle's gone. It's another penalty to the Navy.
And that's what I said, you know, the Army's done some really great work there. Force the Navy after about 3 or 4 phases, and they're still in their own 22, and then we, you know, let them off the hook, so to speak, by that infringement, which then gives them a penalty, and, you know, they can then clear it to perhaps the halfway line, and then, you know, build momentum from there.
It's been a very intelligent performance, hasn't it, so far from the Navy. They've used the experience that they've got, and obviously the success from last week, to really build on it. And they are deservedly in front, Mel, it has to be said.
You're right, John, they are. You know, they've done some really, you know, great stuff. It's not rocket science. They're just doing the basics really well. You know, they're winning their set piece, they're hitting targets in midfield, they're creating opportunities, and when those opportunities arise, you know, like I said, they've got into the 22, and every single time they've taken points, and you know, if they keep doing that, 9 times out of 10 you win games, and that's just effective rugby.
Must be a bit concerning for Gareth Slade-Jones and the rest of his Army coaching team at the moment, to know how they can, you know, change the course of the match.
Well, you know, throughout the season, in all your warm-up games, and you work through different scenarios, and Gareth and his team would have given the players the tools in which to you know, counteract and fire some shots himself. You know, there comes a missed touch there from the Navy. Is now there's a bit of a let-off, an opportunity to get a good organised chase now.
Ball knocked forward from the Navy, but they have collected it. Referee will bring that one back, and surely it's going to be a scrum for the Army. A knock-on there. But Jack Wright decided to have a go for it anyway. Who can blame him?
And that's the thing, you know, if you put the ball in the right areas, at some point someone will make a mistake, and unfortunately for the Army, the majority of the first half, that has been the Army. But you've seen then, you put the Navy under pressure, you know, good kick, great chase, and you know, an error has occurred. It now puts the Army in a great position to fire a couple of shots before half-time.
And this game, of course, could change. You know, all it needs is a quick score from the Army here, and suddenly the whole course of the match could be altered. And we've still got 10 minutes left in this first half, so plenty of time for the Army to pull their way back into this game in front of their home crowd here in Aldershot. Ball goes out wide then to the vice-captain. Nice work then.
No, got themselves on that edge. That's a great carry. Recycle, back in, hit some runners.
Army with the opportunities here. Chance for the Navy to show how they can defend. There's the scrum half, Van der Leest. Army driving forward. Ball goes out wide again. This time
that's a great inside
opportunity,
ball.
and it's brilliant work from the fullback, from Needham. And the Navy, that's brought back for a penalty for the Army.
I think that was a great turnover by the Navy. I think there might have been a slight bit of ill-discipline from the Army there, and marched to further 10.
Yeah. Well, the Navy arms went up, you know, the cheers went up, so they were clearly delighted to have nipped that little attack in the bud.
Yeah, it was a great inside ball, you know, back to the fullback that come running through and hit a great line and made massive inroads. The unfortunate thing for him, though, was he was slightly isolated, and the Navy pounced on it and turned him over.
Taking the heat out of the situation, or shall we say taking the fog out of the situation.
I know, it seems to be clearing again.
Yeah. Navy again, look how they're driving for that halfway line. Brilliant work from the Navy, brilliant driving maul, forcing the Army back.
And you
still have it.
You can see how tight they are and how low they are at the front, and just, you know.
Great tackle though.
Yeah, great tackle.
That was a fantastic tackle from the scrum half from Van der Leest.
Hopefully that will lift his side now. Hopefully they need to get the ball, retain ball.
Did so well. They've got the put into the scrum. Craig Parslow's got a whole list of names here that he's played rugby with the Army in the past. Steve Rabuli, Johnny Rabs, Daryl Slade-Jones, Rhys Reynolds, Gavin Lewis, Kenneth Edward Dowding, Ben Copston, Dave Hussey, Adrian Hales. Brings back good memories, he says. Come on, the Army. And Richard Tiny Lovett says, my dad played rugby for the Army back in 1985. So good to hear some of the old and bold are watching, in rugby terms, I should say. I'm old and bold in real terms, but I mean in rugby terms.
Yeah, no, it's great, and you know, whether it's services rugby or civilian rugby, I think it's you know, we alluded to it earlier when we mentioned Doddy Weir. The rugby fraternity is a great place. You know, there's a lot of people that do a lot of things, so people are not having to know them that well. So you know, it's that having that common goal and that respect for each other that the game brings.
Hoping that my old friend Jamie Doig is watching this evening.
I must admit, I'm sure he will be. He doesn't miss many. He doesn't miss many, bless him.
He doesn't. And I'm sure he'd be here if he could as well tonight, could Jamie?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Best wishes to all my players at Leicester Tigers. Great win for them over London Irish, by the way, on Saturday. Bit of a highlight for me, that, after watching a disappointing England performance against South Africa. But this is a great work from the Army, driving forward as Chris Hubbertstee comes out as far as semi.
And you know, Chris is one of the more experienced players within the under-23s. He was involved in the squad with me when I coached him a few years back. So you know, he's definitely been around the setup for a while, knows the setup, and is crucial.
Yeah, he certainly is. Penalty to the Army. The Navy defending for all they're worth at the moment. Making plenty of ground then on this left-hand side as we're watching from the stand here.
We just need to make the most now of this territory. You know, it's been few and far between. It's been quite sparse in the first half of the territory for the Army. Just need to get the ball, make some inroads, and proper challenge the Navy defence. Ask questions of it.
Stolen though brilliantly by the Navy. Just exactly what you don't need if you're the Army at the moment, when you've got a line out in such a promising position.
Exactly, you know 5 minutes ago before half time, that's crucial, because if the Army catch that and then start building some phases and looking in the Navy 22, it could be a different story.
And great tackling from the Navy, but the Army still driving forward, trying to make some ground here. Navy have stolen it back. Jack Wright had a magnificent game so far in the hooker position for the Navy. There he is on the ball. Ball goes out wide onto this left-hand side.
Yeah, Navy.
Oh, and they've got a chance now for a third try. Lovely work from them, from Bartlett.
It was just a loose offload by him, and you know, the Navy boys have picked that up and turned back possession into their favour.
Well, they've turned defence into attack so quickly, but the Army have it back. They'll clear their lines with Hubbertstee again, Chris Hubbertstee from the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. Ball goes out into touch into the last 5 minutes here in this first half. Plenty of food for thought for both coaches, I'm sure, Mel.
Yeah, you know, I think Owen's messages at half-time would be actually quite clear. It's more of the same. You know, let's play the territory. Let's get the advantage. We're quite dominant in terms of set piece, line out wise. You know, scrum's quite even, but from his perspective, I think he'd be quite happy and content and more of the same. I think, you know, from Gareth's perspective, he probably need to look to change it up a little bit and really throw caution to the wind now and just go for it.
Well, they had the line out. Jack Wright then with the line out goes long. Big chase on from George Prentice.
That's probably the first time that their set piece has let them down, if I'm honest. A slight, you know, overthrow at the back.
Ball kicked high into the night sky, into the fog, comes down eventually. Army trying to find some space to drive it forward. The referee, though, has brought it back. Becky Piddleston having a great game for the referee's position tonight.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's great to see. We had last year with Sarah Cox at Twickenham. The first time a lady had taken charge of a game at Twickenham, and she was absolutely amazing from start to finish. In terms of game management, talking to the players, but more so the interaction with the coaches and before the game. In earlier part of the week, I managed to get sort of 10-15 minute conversation with her, and really nice lady, really kind of informative, asking what we expected from her, and likewise her from us.
But isn't that the most important thing, that she's the referee? You're not actually saying this is a woman refereeing, a female referee. This is the referee. She's refereeing the game as any referee would, and that actually is what it's all about, isn't it? That's what we want to see.
Exactly, and sometimes is there too much made of it? I think as an official that's in the middle of a pitch with a whistle that's controlling and officiating a game, and irrespective of the sex, it doesn't matter that they're there to officiate a game, and like I said, I can't speak highly enough of Sarah. It was really, really good from start to finish.
Well, that was terrific work there from Andy Hustle, denying Gobitu, Tex Gobitu the chance. Held off the tackle really well. The Navy have won yet another penalty. A bit of attention now going on for, looks like a head stop, and that's Jordan Miller who's just being attended to at the moment. You can't take any chances, can you, with head injuries, or any indication, any thought about any sort of head injury?
No, and you're right, you shouldn't. There's so much tight protocol now around HIAs, and even in matches where you haven't got the HIA protocol, it's just that you identify risk and remove straight away. It's not necessarily sometimes the first initial impact. You can get the secondary impact syndrome, which is just as catastrophic sometimes as the initial blow. So no, definitely, if there's any doubt whatsoever, players' safety and health is paramount. We all play a competitive game, a hard confrontational game, but unfortunately sometimes as a consequence of that is there are these injuries, and like we said, for safety of the players, it just need to remove if any doubt at all.
Well, he's just having the head check at the moment, just to check that everything is okay. Gives both teams a chance in this last minute of the first half. The clock, of course, has been stopped to just regroup and reassess. And I don't think it's going to take too much working out to know who's the happier of the two coaches at half-time.
I can't see Owen anywhere, actually, so yeah, I would take it he would be. 12 points up against the Navy and Aldershot. If I was Owen, I would definitely take that at half-time.
Yeah, they played extremely well. A lot of thinking to do as far as the Army's concerned, as Gareth Slade-Jones just pops down onto the touchline just to check how things are going with Jordan Miller. Freddie Mouland has already had to leave the field with a blood injury, but Jordan appears to be back in place, so it will be then the chance for the Navy to go for touch with this penalty.
Yeah, and going back to Gareth at half time, I don't think the Army are that far off it. They just need to perhaps retain a little bit more ball, but speed up the breakdown. When we carry the ball in, we're there for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds sometimes, which then gives the Navy that opportunity to organise. I think if we could speed the ball up at the breakdown, defensively they're narrow, we then create opportunities on the outside.
Lanny van der Lees says, that's my boy Kevin. And Richard Tony Lovett says, Kevin might know my dad Les Lovett. I think there's a bit of conversation going on here on our Facebook page tonight. It's always good to know that maybe people getting back in touch with each other again after all these years, as you say, Mel, through the rugby family, which is what we're all about here tonight. Exchange of...
I know, I can't really see where the ball is, though, John, but I'd imagine it's, the Army
it's
are now
somewhere out there.
And that's a really good break by it. Well,
into touch,
just
though.
Into touch.
Yeah, it was good work then from Tanio Govier. of the 1st Battalion, the Grenadier Guards, but he is taken into touch, and we really are into the last stages of this first half. According to our clock, we've already played about nearly 9 minutes of stoppage time, almost as long as they're playing in the Football World Cup these days, Mel.
I know, I don't know how they can do it. 45 minutes each way and then 11 extra minutes at the end, or 12 extra minutes at the end. It's yeah.
Well, there have been some injuries, you know, and sustained injuries on the pitch. You know, it's the head injuries, you know, the assessments going on, really important. I mean, that was a bit of a nonsense in England's first game, wasn't it? You know, 15 minutes of stoppage time at the end of the first half, and then 10 at the end in the second.
Yeah. No, and you know, I think you hit the nail on the head there, John. You know, safety. We can't. If it takes an extra couple of minutes per half, that's what it takes. You know, the players' safety is paramount.
So, what can the Navy do here? Driving forward is Lucas Can. Runs into a wall. The Navy spreading the ball wide onto this right-hand side, and that's again great play from Andy Hassel. And another penalty to the Navy. Well, I've run out of pages, I've run out of ink to calculate the number of penalties that the Army have given away in this first half, but it vastly outnumbers the infringements from the Navy, and maybe that sums up why the Navy have got this lead.
Yeah, for me, I think you know, I am a little bit further away than the referee, but I thought that was a really good turnover then by the Army. I thought the naval second row was isolated, and I thought it was a good turnover. Clearly, I'm not as close as a ref, and she's seen an infringement now. I think she said that the hands were on the ground first, which is a fair call.
But Kevin Manson is going to go for goal once more. He's had a lot of success so far with the boot. A penalty, a drop goal, sorry, a conversion, a drop goal.
Yeah, it's interesting because he turned one down from this sort of range early on in the game, so he clearly thinks it's right on the limit of his range.
And he goes for it, and I think that has gone wide to the right. Referee allowing play to go on. I thought that might be the last kick of this first half, but it isn't. We're still playing. Penalty this time to the Army. Navy offside.
I was going to say, Becky's literally just given exactly the same penalty there, so it's clearly something that she's you know, looks for at the breakdown. So from my perspective, from an Army perspective, I'd definitely be telling the players that at half time is, you know, just don't even compete sometimes.
Well, that is the half time then. 15 points to 3. It's been a really good half of rugby for the Royal Navy here. Remember, the victory for them, or a draw, or even a defeat by 8 points, will be good enough to bring them the title. But they'll want to go out there in the second half and seal this game with a win. The Army, an awful lot of work to do at half-time.
Yeah, no, definitely, but it's not something that's insurmountable. It's definitely something that the Army can come back from. It's just getting that confidence early doors in the second half. I think the Army need to start, understatement clearly, but they need to start really, really well. They need to be the first to score in the second half if they stand a chance.
Yeah, and important for them. I mean, summing up that first half, Mal, it was, you know, a really great start for the Navy, wasn't it? They just started to mark their dominance right from the word go.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's a tale of two teams where the Navy are really consistent, set piece, really efficient, and you know, every time they got into the 22, they come away with points, whether it's a drop goal or whether, you know, it's a catch and drive, and really efficient in what they do. So they clearly know their strengths and weaknesses and play to their strengths. And you know, then from an Army perspective, there's probably too many basic errors, handling errors, you know, decisions being made that perhaps weren't the correct ones. You know, slowing the ball down at the breakdown, giving the Navy the opportunity to organise defensively. I think if there's a couple of things that the Army could probably sort out in that from that first half, would be speeding the ball up at the breakdown, narrowing up the Navy defence to create opportunities out wide. But more importantly, it's making that kind of judgment that they need to play in the right areas, a little bit more intensity.
Yeah, absolutely, and that, I'm sure, is what Gareth will be saying to his players at half-time. I wonder what Owen will be saying to his players, because, you know, they've not done too much wrong, have they, in that first half?
No, they haven't. But if I was Owen, I would say pretty much more of the same. But I would put a real emphasis on a big start for the first 5 minutes of the second half, because I would go out intentionally trying to win this game in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the second half, and I think that's crucial. I think, if the Navy score first, that's going to be quite a monumental effort from the Army to come back from that. One, just not on the scoreboard, but mentally as well. From my perspective, like I said, if the Navy come out and start really well, it just reaffirm the messages and the confidence they had from the first half.
Well, of course, there's the choices that both coaches have from the benches. They can make use of their replacements in the second half. That could be crucial. That could be a crucial time, really, and to deciding this. But at the moment, it is a 12-point lead for the Royal Navy. 15 points to 3 they lead at half-time. We'll take a bit of a break here now, and let's bring you up to date now with the very best of Forces Rugby. And a chance then for the youngster, for number 13, Ryan Robertshaw, to go over and score their third try.
Hi, I'm Simon Hunter, and this is In Case You Missed It. Three-time Olympic gold medalist Pete Reid has been made an honorary captain in the Royal Navy. He was medically discharged from the Navy earlier this year, having suffered a spinal stroke in 2019, which left him paralysed from the waist down. It followed an international rowing career in which he won 3 Olympic titles, 5 World Championships, and was awarded an OBE. The date for the 2023 Army v Navy rugby fixtures at Twickenham has been confirmed. The matches will be played at the home of England Rugby on Saturday the 13th of May. The games were originally due to be held a week earlier, but were moved because of a clash with King Charles III's coronation. A veteran has praised the selflessness of his Wheelchair Rugby League World Cup winning side. Former British Army soldier James Simpson watched his England team beat the reigning champions France 28-24. The England and Leeds Rhino player scored 5 tries in the tournament, including 1 in the semi-final.
It shows you the selflessness of this team, and that is something I love about it. I think that's something you get from sport that I used to get in the military as well, is that selflessness within a group, and you could have taken any one of those players off today and they wouldn't have whinged, they'd just come off, the next player would have been on, but the players out there did the job, and I knew they would. We all knew they would.
Army players have made an impact in both the professional rugby men's and women's games. Rifleman Imi Korowale came off the bench to score against Northampton Saints for Newcastle Falcons, who he joined in the summer after impressing with the Army Sevens. And Private Courtney Pursglove was also a scoring replacement for Sale Sharks women, getting a try in the 31-12 win over DMP Sharks. Para-triathlete Dave Ellis and his RAF guide Luke Pollard have won their 3rd world title. The Commonwealth champions retained their visually impaired title with victory in the final leg of the Para World Triathlon Championships in Abu Dhabi. A senior aircraftman in the RAF, Pollard has been a guide for Ellis since 2019.
Birmingham-born boxer Dave Jones has only been in the Army for 12 months, but his burgeoning career in the ring saw him claim another welcome win. The opponent in his men's 67-kilo clash was Scottish elite welterweight champion Matthew McDonald, and Jones was keen to get on the front foot early on. As the opening round progressed, Jones grew in confidence and caught Commonwealth Games hopeful McDonald with a number of classy punches. In an absorbing encounter, the Forces fighter copped a couple of scoring strikes too, as his Irvine-based rival showed his gift with the gloves and looked to make his mark. But as the contest continued into the final round, it was the Army man's appetite for work that saw him shading the exchanges at close quarters. By the end,
by a unanimous decision,
and with the scores in,
red is the winner.
It was Jones who claimed the confidence-boosting bout, and afterwards he paid tribute to the Army boxing setup.
We've got a good family down here, good family, a good setup, good team. So I'm never alone in that ring. Like I say, I've got a good family here, so we're all as one. So when I'm in there, I feel like I've got 100 bodies with me. But yeah, like you say, testing myself against a good international lads who have been around, like, you know what I mean. But no, I didn't feel out of place. Felt we had our own and took it to them a little bit, like, yeah, and got the win. So brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, so you're coming up to the sort of, not quite the halfway point of your season, because some big bouts for you to come next year. So how much will this win today help you going forward?
Like you've said, like I say, we're coming into what, Christmas time now, so we're getting ready for the championships, the elites. That's just a massive confidence booster. That's like, massive. Just watching the team, just watching everybody progress. So what we do in training and to come along and actually do what we're doing in training into the ring is just golden, really, golden.
There was further Army success for Lewis Harvey in his lightweight showdown. The long-limbed Harvey, who claimed a coveted podium finish at the Haringey Box Cup earlier in the year, just shaded his fight with Scotland's Nicholas Devlin. The 27 Regiment RLC soldier went on to win by a split decision. Meanwhile, middleweight Conor Moore enjoyed victory on his debut for the Army elite team. He faced the compact frame of London lad Charlie Roach, who was representing southern counties. Moore weathered several flurries from the boxer in blue, but crucially, it was Moore who landed it.
We'll leave the coverage then of the boxing there. That fascinating contest there with the Army against Scotland, because the teams are back out onto the field for the second half here, and it's going to be a fascinating second half here. That's, of course, if we can see the players in the fog, Mal.
Yeah, no, the fog's definitely descend on Queen's Avenue now. Yeah, it'll make it interesting the second half.
Away we go then. Don't forget the Army trailing this game by 3 points to 15. 2 tries for the Navy in that first half, and also one of them converted, and also a drop goal with a penalty, the response from the Army. So it really is a bit of a lottery out there for us to see who's got the ball where it is. We'll just have to hope that most of the play takes place on the stand side of the pitch, Mel.
I know my eyesight's failing with age, but this is definitely a challenge tonight.
I did say I'd bring my binoculars this evening, but I don't think they'll be any use, to be honest, in this.
I must admit, it's literally kind of just...
It's just ascended, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's just come down. And we were told the fog probably wouldn't be as dense down here in the south of England tonight, and as it has been. But anyway, the play is over there on that far side somehow. It looks like the Navy are driving forward at the moment and looking for the opportunity for a third try here. It's a good start for them. Ball comes wide then on the left-hand side here. Just seeing if we can penetrate the fog with our main camera here. Ball kicked forward then for them by Kieran Manson under the post. Referee will bring it back.
And like we said, you know, it's crucial for the Army to get the first score, really, just to get themselves back into this game.
Just remind you as well that it won't be foggy tomorrow evening. We will be live with you tomorrow night here on Forces News YouTube and Facebook with the Royal Navy Sports Awards, which we're bringing you live from the Long Room at Lord's Cricket Ground. So we're looking forward to that tomorrow, and there won't be a fog problem there, hopefully, because we'll be indoors. But the game is underway here in this second half. Army with a lot of work to do. It's a line out on that far side of the field, which, well, it could either be the Navy or the Army, to quote John Snagg in a famous old boat race commentary that he did.
I was going to say, that has got really bad.
It's getting really dense, isn't it? And we just wonder how it really is closing in here. I think even if the play came right up in front of the stand. And these aren't bad floodlights here at the military stadium, are they, Mal?
No, they're pretty good, and that's why, you know, the game will continue as long as Becky sees fit, because once you're on the pitch, it's totally different. You know, you've got great visibility. Well, not great visibility, but you'll be able to see the players around you.
Whistle has gone. We know not for. What for?
No, it's definitely a commentator's nightmare, this.
Well, I can be forgiven for getting a few players' names wrong, I guess. Let's just mention a few people, shall we? And our friend Jamie Doig. Good evening to you, Jamie. It's a dominant Navy display in the first half. Let's hope the Reds get a foothold in the second half. Mark Fiddock says, keep going the senior service. Freddie Mouland is still out there. He is. Luke Hayward says, I can spot his massive head anywhere. The Army are bringing a player off.
I'm not sure if that's someone coming off or someone that's been carded. Not too sure.
It could be a card, actually.
Yeah, I know there was a loud whistle blast and a red shirt appears running towards the stand. So,
but the Navy are making a change here, and that's coming on for them is Ben Ravi. So they've made a change. Obviously feel they can get something out of this. The Army then down to 14 at the moment. Not going to help their cause at all. Can the referee just get the players to bring the play over onto this side of the field? So at least we've got a fighting chance of seeing what's happening. Navy, though, are driving for the line, looking for that third try. Good work from them.
I was going to say, this looks pretty ominous from kind of the first half.
And the ball comes wide onto this.
That's great.
And it's a great opportunity for them. And going in for the try is Charlie Penrose Toms. A third try for the Navy. Really important score for them. And that really does put some dark blue water between them and the Army. 20 points to 3 they now lead. It was obviously great work from the scrum. Ball brought across, and there was Charlie Penrose Toms from HMS Heron to go over for the try.
It was early doors, you know. We can make an assumption there's great Navy play up front, a couple of carries in close just to tie in that Army defence who's crucially a man down as well. So it narrows that defence up, which then creates that opportunities out wide, and you know, taking again another visit to 22 by the Navy, and they come away with points.
So it's a wideish kick facing Kieran Manson, but he was successful from the left side early in that first half with the early try that the Navy scored to give themselves that early lead.
I know it's on his favoured side again, so hopefully he'll have the same result as he did on his first kick from that side.
You said hopefully.
In the first half.
You said hopefully.
I said hopefully.
From a Navy point of view.
Yeah, that unconscious bias again. No, he seems to strike the ball really, really well, and I think the only one that he missed is just that slight over rotation, which put it across the face of the post.
It's a good kick, but he's pulled it wide, so the Navy extend their lead.
Commentator's curse.
Yeah. And they are making a couple of changes now. Looks like in their front row, changes being made, going on for them.
you know, crucially now that is 3 scores for the Army. 3 scores the Army need to get back
just to
in.
back into the game. And of course, to win this title, they've got to make up a 9-point deficit. A man who's come off for them, by the way, for the Navy is Harry Wright. Had a fantastic game in the front row for them.
And I think, you know, looking at the inter-service title, I think that's kind of something that's going to be the long distance for the Army. They just need to get back into this game. They need to get I keep saying it, and it's not rocket science, but they definitely need to get the next score. I think if the Navy were to score again, I think that's pretty much the match done, considering they're dominant the outset piece.
The ball goes high into the fog, but the Army do have it, and it's a brilliant run forward. I don't think any of the Navy players can see him, but the Navy have collected it and picked it up again. With the visibility so bad, there is clearly an opportunity for players to run with the ball and without necessarily being picked up. And here they go once again. Nicely collected by Ben Ravi for the Navy.
You know, again, the Navy seemed to find the edge there with consummate ease and kind of scooted along the outside and made 20-30 metres.
Andy Hustle spreads it wide to Bartlett. Jack Bartlett. That one no relation, by the way, to your former adversary in the Navy side.
To Nick, no.
Nick has got a son called Jack.
He has.
He plays for Gloucester.
Yeah, he played the other week against UCAF.
He did. And had a great game.
Yeah, had a great game. Really good game. He was actually captain them, so
he
a bit of a chip off the old block, I think.
He is.
Although slightly fitter. Sorry, Nick.
A different Jack Bartlett.
Yeah.
But Nick, if you're watching tonight, no doubt you'll be absolutely delighted to see that your senior service, you young team, are doing so well. There's an injury at the moment down in front of us as well for the Army. It looks like it could be Kobitu gonna text Kobitu, hope that he's going to be okay, but lots of tackling going in at the moment, and it's going to be a penalty to the Army. A bit of boxing going on there, which, as you said earlier, is totally unnecessary.
Yeah, it's just ill discipline. It's stupid. You know, the Army are already a man down, and you know, players react like that. They just need to be the bigger person and step away. You know, in the heat of the battle, people do silly things, and I think you just need to take the emotion out of it, get back. You know, whatever the decision's been made, whoever's done what, just keep your mind in your game. I think that's crucial.
Well, they are going to make a couple of changes in their lineup, the Army. Latham and Buchanan are going to come on, 16 and 17 for the Army. When this injury has been sorted, the 2 Army players currently down at the moment, receiving some attention. One of those is a replacement earlier on. That's Henry Sanday is receiving attention, and also Kobitu as well from the Royal Horse Artillery. He's now up on his feet.
I think the Army tight head there is quite fortunate to stay on the field of play. I genuinely thought it was going to be another Army yellow card.
Yeah, it's actually Semi Toka Dua, who is who's back on his feet again, and now also so is Sanday. But replacements coming on into that Army front row. The hard days, a hard evening's work for them, for the Army.
Yeah, they put in a tough shift, you know, for almost 50 minutes. You know, that Navy pack is a well-drilled, well-organised pack, really efficient in what it does.
Dren Stevenson and Masaki Yabaki are the players who've made way. So a completely new front row then for the Army with Latham and Buchanan on. What can they do?
I was going to say it's a good early test, you know, straight into a scrum. No chance of warming up, just straight into it. But it's a great opportunity for the new boys that have come on off the bench to stamp their authority on the game. You know, no better place than to go straight into a scrum and stamp your authority and show your dominance early.
Now, is the fog clearing a bit, Mal, do you think?
I can see the scoreboard, so that would suggest to me that it probably has cleared a little bit. Yeah.
I think it's clearing. Means we can see a bit more of the action here. What we can tell you is that the Navy are well ahead here by 20 points to 3, a 17-point lead, which they'll be absolutely delighted about, and they're threatening once more to sew together this Navy team. And as I say it, it looks like the fog is descending again on us. Ball comes back into the middle. It's tough tackling, but another penalty given away by the Army, playing into the Navy's hands in so many ways.
I didn't quite see what that penalty was for.
You can be forgiven for that in this fog.
Yeah, no, definitely. It just again, you know, takes the momentum slightly out of the game, and you know, great kick there by the Navy straight into our 22. And you know, if previous is anything to go by, then it's going to possibly be another Navy score. Every time they've visited 22, they've come away with points. So it will take a monumental effort by the Army now to keep them out.
Yeah. And it's going to be very difficult to make out how this goes, but it's a line out in a difficult position, just a few metres out from the Army line. Can the Navy go for a fourth try here, which will surely seal them victory even at this early stage in the second half?
Again, you know, the Army get that really good initial shove on and repel the Navy and stop them. And now the Navy get organised, and there's that second surge that always comes on from the Navy.
I'm sure Dave Pascoe, who was with me last week, the Navy senior coach, is watching tonight, and will be very encouraged by the performance of these young players. And it looks like there's another try. I think it is a fourth try for the Navy. Well, your guess is as good as mine about who's got that one.
Yeah, you know, even though the fog of mist has set in, I think it was pretty inevitable how efficient the Navy set piece has been, and you know, again, got into the 22 and come away with points. It's an actual, you know, coach's dream, almost performance. Territory points, and you know, Owen, I'm sure, will be pleased with the start that his side has made in the second half.
Well, they've been absolutely dominant so far. The Army have hardly had any play at all in the opposite side of the field from their own. A few comments coming in. Roger Redwin, good evening to you, Roger, over there in the United States. Says, come on, let's go Navy. I think, Roger, they're going to oblige this evening. Kai Beasley reminds me of the under-23s game in 2010 when the fog came down. And Thomas Blackburn says, come on the Navy and try to keep play on this side of the pitch, please. Yeah, we echo that. We absolutely echo that. And Dorothy Lawrence says, look at the fog. Well, I am looking at the fog. Can't see too much rugby. Looks like the kick is going over. The flag doesn't go up, so it remains 25 points to 3. It looks like Nazaka is back on, who was sin binned, and another change for the Army is Trooper Murphy coming on from the Army Air Corps to replace the man leaving the field. Looks like they're going to make another change as well. And our teas have just arrived. Thanks ever so much to Doc Cox, who's brought those in for us this evening. Doc, who did all that hard work, raising all that money just a few weeks ago with that magnificent effort of theirs. And the Army, for the first time really in this second half, are driving forward into the opponent's half. What can they do here? But it's the Navy who've got it again. And
like you said, it's really difficult to see. I think that was a really good Navy exit then, really good box kick.
Yeah,
taking play to the halfway line.
They cleared their lines magnificently. This is certainly going to be the Navy's night.
Yeah, the Navy has been really efficient, really pragmatic in their approach. You know, they've played the game really well, played the game in the opposition's half. really good set piece, setting targets, creating opportunities, and every time they've got into the 22, it sounds like a bit like a stuck record, but every time they've got in the 22, they've come away with points, which is crucial.
No, they've done so well, and you know, these conditions are not easy to play in. Army just crossing the halfway line. Opportunity for them then with Jordan Miller. Not forward.
You know, from my perspective then, it's quite clear when they come on this side that, you know, the Navy's line speed in defence is really impressive. They're really getting off the line and really putting the Army under pressure.
Well, they're just not giving the Army an inch, are they? You know, it's so disciplined. Here's Mills, and the ball comes out from Steinberg, the scrum half. Ball up into the fog again, collected by the Army. Maybe a chance for them to run wide on that left-hand side. Quarter of an hour played in the second half. And if you're just joining us live here on Forces News Facebook, you can see that we're battling not only against the two teams tonight here, but we're also battling against the elements with the fog having descended on Aldershot this evening. Ball kicked clear, collected by Steinberg, the scrum half. Clears his lines, only though as far as the Army's Gavir.
Yeah, that's a really good coverage.
Yeah, he does really well.
Navy 15, and
yeah, great work from the fullback, from Freddie Elliott. Scored a memorable try last week.
That's a really good, intelligent kick. There's no one back there. Turn the defence.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh, really good slip tackle there.
That looks like some Fijian flair coming in for the Army.
Just need to capitalise though. Well, the Navy defence is narrow, so we needed to move that ball quicker.
It was Nasaka, I think, who produced that, but the ball has gone for a Navy scrum. Did he knock it forward, perhaps?
I believe so, yeah. And you know, we made that really good gain, 20-metre gain after evading that tackle. We slipped the oncoming defence and then made inroads, but then, you know, it's followed by a simple mistake, not retaining the ball in the tackle.
A few more mentions here. Kana Penrose Toms says, so proud of my baby bro. Charlie Penrose Toms, Royal Navy's number 14, having scored that try there, did Charlie. And Terry Penrose Toms says, very proud mum, go Charlie. So a bit of support for him tonight. Greg the Godfather Smith says, Navy are more used to working in the fog.
I think Penrose is definitely a Cornish name.
Yep.
Obviously being a fellow Cornishman. Yeah. Playing for the Navy, so I can't really support, but yeah.
You'll claim some credit.
I claim so. Although I've not been home in the county for over 28 years, so probably not too much.
About to put that right, I believe, aren't you?
Definitely. So, I'm really looking forward to
that.
Going back home.
Yeah. That's a break in play here. Yeah, I'm really indebted to Doc Cox, who's brought us a cup of tea, but he has spilt half of it all over our equipment. But I think we're still broadcasting, so we're okay. In fact, I think it was quite appreciated, the warmth, actually. It was certainly a lovely cup of tea, so thanks for that, Doc, for that. Very kind of you. Come on, Lewis. Navy number 19, says Megan Davis as well. Keep those messages coming in. The fog just lifting a little bit. Maybe we can see a little bit more of the action now. Army bring it out. Kicked clear by their scrum half by Van der Leest into Navy territory. Ball will go up again. Wide onto that right-hand side of the field. Into an Army pair of hands. That looked like Donald Barrett from the Parachute Regiment.
I was going to say, I think, ran back quite close to the touchline there, and then that basic mistake of being dragged into touch. Well, we need to just come open and run back to your support players.
Approaching the halfway point then in this second half. Substantial lead for the Royal Navy here. If you've just joined us tonight, our Forces News Facebook and YouTube channels, it looks very much like the Royal Navy are going to be lifting that Inter-Services Under-23 title for 2022, and after a deserved victory against the Air Force last week, they're well on course here in the fog of Aldershot to do the double, claim that title. Interesting that most of the Army coaching team are now on the touchline, Mel. They've seen enough from these high angle, haven't they?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think with 20 minutes ago, I think my message would be quite clear. Don't kick the ball, retain ball, and just go for it. You've got to. There's nothing to lose. You know, what are they, 20, 22 points down? You know, you've got to throw caution to the wind now, and you've got to go for it. You've just got to back yourself and run pretty much from everywhere. You know, but like you said, full credit to the Navy. They're really, really good. Hate the terminology, well-coached team. Clearly, Owen's done his work really well, but the players are going to go on the park and actually play the game. So you can put the processes in place. They've got to deliver, and I think the Navy's got that absolutely bang on tonight.
Well, Roger Redrin has just explained to us that apart from spilling tea, Doc Cox used to spill the ball quite a lot when he played for the Navy, but as he's not around to hear what I had to say, I can get away with that one this evening. Good evening to you, Roger, over there in the States. Great to have you with us tonight, as you were last week. Doing a great job for the Navy out there in the British Embassy. Now, here come the Royal Navy once more. Opportunity for them with Ravi. Kicks the ball up. Well picked up, though, for the Army by Rav. Another Rav.
That's more like it.
Kalula.
Running with a purpose, running with intent, and that's what you need to do. Just get that Navy defence set on the back foot.
The Navy will be anxious not to have their line crossed this evening. The Army will be looking for any scraps that they can get in this last 20 minutes. 25 points to 3, the Royal Navy ahead. What a score we possibly expected at kick-off. But the Navy have been so well drilled here. Owen Salmon's done a magnificent job on his team with the young Navy players. They'll be absolutely thrilled with this.
And I think you know the Navy have brought in some really good coaches as well. I've just bumped into Ben Priddy in the tunnel at half-time, and you know, having recently retired from the Navy, clearly Ben's passing on his knowledge and experience onto the younger players, and you can kind of tell, because you know, they've stepped up to the plate. They've not been daunted at all by the challenge or the pressures that Inter-Services brings, and you know, they've delivered a really good, polished performance.
And I know he was looking forward very much to taking on this new role, and he retired after the Army-Navy game at Twickenham last year, and of course he scored a try, didn't he, for the Navy, which was I know the Navy were on the losing side, as you'll be happy to remind us, Mal, but the you know, for him, great for them to have for him to have scored a try to finish his career.
Yeah, no, I must admit, selfishly, I'm kind of glad that he wasn't on the winning side, because then it meant as a head coach I would have lost.
Well, you were the head coach, so
yeah, so I wouldn't have been too pleased. But you know, he's been a great servant to Navy Rugby, and it was befitting that he scored on his final game.
In a way, of course, this will be a huge learning curve for Gareth Slade-Jones. I mean, you sometimes learn a lot more from matches that you lose or are losing than you do from games that you're winning.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right, you definitely do, you know, because if you go through winning, it proves that you've got the right formula, but there's clearly no team is unbeatable, and I think, you know, the All Blacks has kind of proved that over the last sort of like season or two, and you know, it is good, but it's not something as a coach you like to experience that often, if at all. So yeah, you know, you want to go unbeaten, you want to perform every single time, but reality sometimes says that the wheels do come off the wagon every so often, and it doesn't go according to plan.
Well, Oscar Sanders Mortimer has just come on for the Navy, based just down the road here at HMS Collingwood, Portsmouth way. And
this is an interesting call, this.
A penalty for the Army, trying to get some more points on the board.
I was going to say, take the gap down to 19, which is still 3 scores.
It's just going to drop a bit short, I think, isn't it? And he's pulled it away to the left-hand side.
Yeah, I'm a little bit bemused with that decision. You're still 3 scores down. I would definitely look to play the corner there and look to capitalise and get into the Navy's 22 and look for tries. I don't think 17 minutes to go, 3 points is enough.
Well, we've just lost our monitor as well now, so it means we're having to operate totally. The monitor was actually quite useful, I must admit, but I think we'll see if we can get it back in just a few moments' time. But the Army are maybe buoyed by that penalty. They've got an opportunity then.
Like I said, when they carry with intent and a purpose, the Army start making some really good inroads to the Navy. They narrow up them defensively and then create an opportunity out wide. I just think it's not been often enough.
Now there, again, the referee has brought play back again for.
I think that might have been Doc. Doc has destroyed the monitor with a cup of tea.
I think it's just the battery's just got a bit cold, so just a quick change of equipment, and hopefully we'll be back up and running again with our all-important monitor, certainly to monitor the situation in this weather. Play down in front of us just at the moment.
And that's it, with 15 minutes to go now, and you know, the Army, they've got to score next. They've got to get possession. This is a crucial time in the game. Although, you know, most people viewing would say that that's probably it, inter-service championship done. This is when pride comes into it, and this is where you really want to do your service proud by wearing that shirt with distinction and never giving up.
Well, we have got our picture back from our monitor, so that will help us just to spot things in these last few minutes of the game.
I think Becky called that as not straight at the line out, so I think it's a naval scrum.
So it'll be a Navy scrum this time.
That's a really good carry.
Great carry for the Navy.
Oh, that's a great kick.
Oh, what a kick. What a magnificent kick that was. And suddenly the action has changed and moved back into the Army half. And can the Navy score? He has another try here.
And I think they've won the ball back over. They've turned that ball over.
What a turnover for them. Ball driven forward for them. James Wales, who's on for them. Wales still going for it. Driving for the line. The Navy sensing blood, maybe sensing a fifth try here.
I think we can confidently say that if the Navy score,
which they have done,
I think
the congratulations going up.
I think you can safely say with 13 minutes to go, that is probably the game and inter-service title to the Navy.
Well, and they've been absolutely magnificent. That's now 30 points to 3. They lead here. This is turning into a comprehensive victory for the Royal Navy.
Well, I think from an Army perspective, this is when the leaders under the post now need to get the side together, and you just need to go out and play for pride now. It's you know, I genuinely think the game's gone. But if I was under the post as a leader now, I would get the whole team in, and it's about doing that shirt justice, is wearing it with honour, wearing it with pride, and potentially giving yourself that opportunity to wear it again by putting in a performance when, you know, adversity's against you and your back's against the wall stuff. You now see the test of the player and those that are prepared to go to the dark places for the shirt.
Well, somewhere amongst that fog, there is going to be a conversion attempt. And
I think that was successful.
I think it's gone over, yeah. Yep. The flag's gone up. Our camera behind the goal there. Well done to Chris, who's recorded that. So the conversion has gone over, and that takes the score to 32 points to 3. So Kanya Penrose Thomas wonders who scored. Your guess is as good as mine, Kana, on that one. And Kirsty Mahler says, go Navy. One clear winner here, says Darren Bell. Clear being the operative word in this fog. But the Army still having a go, still trying. They've really been absolutely taken to the cleaners in this second half by a extraordinary Royal Navy performance.
And unfortunately, you see their signal crossing by the Army when things aren't going your way. They definitely don't go your way, and it's those small things that make a big difference.
The Navy still looking as fresh as they did really when they kicked off. Ben Rees, who's come on as the replacement hooker, will take the line out. Dorothy Lawrence says, keep trying, Army. Well, I think they'll still carry on doing that, Dorothy. But they're up against such a well-drilled Navy team here this evening. Look at this drive forward again. Brilliant work from James Wales. He still has the ball.
And, you know, that's a 15-20 metre gain. They've now had another carry. It's another 5 metre gain. It's just every time they carry with that intent and a purpose.
Army have got no answer, have they? Absolutely no answer to this. Brilliant work again for the Navy from their number 21, Ryan Scott.
You know, they had 3 carries there, made probably about 25-30 metres.
But Jordan Miller collects it, releases. Army again trying to make some headway. Denied though by this ferocious Navy tackling. Once again the fog descends on us. It's a lottery out there from our point of view. Not from the players' point of view though, they can see very clearly what's going on.
And I think I could work out that was probably a spill ball in contact. I think that's a knock on and a naval scrum again. But I think, you know, we go back to a previous point, and when the Navy made about 30-35 metres on 3 to 4 carries, and I think that's what the difference has been tonight. When the Navy carry, they carry with intent, with a purpose. They come on the ball at pace. They don't take it static and then try to generate momentum from there. And I think that's been the key difference. If you can make 30-40 metres, 3 to 4 phases, you know, you've got that defence narrow, but also on the back foot.
32-3 is that sobering score if you're watching from an Army point of view. It's a magnificent score if you're watching from board a Royal Navy ship somewhere out there in the world tonight, or a shore-based establishment perhaps down in Portsmouth or Plymouth, or maybe up there in Scotland, Faslane. It's a brilliant performance from this young Navy team. 5 tries they've scored this evening, without reply from the Army, who just have a penalty to show for their efforts in the first half. Into the last 10 minutes of this game, and I'm sure now that the Army players can't wait for the final whistle.
Yeah, no, there's possibly a bit of that, but there's possibly a bit of, you know, some of these young lads, it'll probably be their last season in a red shirt, so they'll probably want to stay in it for as long as possible, irrespective of the score. So, you know, they'll never give up, they'll keep going to the end. But, you know, I want to just go back on your previous point where, you know, this puts Navy Rugby in really good stead moving forward. And I can say that now that I'm no involvement into service. But, you know, they've got a really good basis here moving forward. together with the team that they had last year, which was a relatively young side as well. So, you know, I think Naval Rugby's in a really good place going forward, and so's Army. You know, the boys have put on a spectacle tonight. It's not gone the Army's way, but that's not to say that those boys aren't talented and haven't given their best effort. It's just, unfortunately, they've fallen short.
And I think the Royal Air Force too. I think we could be in for a really close Inter-Services Championship this year.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm going to really enjoy spectating.
And maybe joining us for a bit of commentary as well, Mal. Who knows? We hope so.
That'd be really nice.
We can tempt you up from the southwest. Well, there's a few applause going up on that far side of the field. Looks like it's the Navy have got the ball, possession.
The fog and mist has definitely come in again.
It's impossible to see what's happening. Nick Bartlett definitely is watching. Good evening to you, Nick. He says, go Navy. Glenn Young, great result for the Navy. Well, they haven't won yet, Glenn, but I think we can safely say that they've got this in the bag. Emma Clare, amazing performance from the Navy. Go, my boys. Lewis, my boy Lewis. And David Field says, rather philosophically, well, there's always next year.
There is, you know, and I'm not too sure the age of the, especially the Army boys, but you know, if they can learn from this experience and come back even stronger for it, and you know, this is what the under-23s and the academy is all about. It's about bleeding those young players and giving them that thirst and hunger for inter-service rugby, so that they can then progress on to the senior level.
Just down at ground level, we're getting these pictures from Chris, our cameraman down there, who's trying to keep up with the play from ground level, so at least you at home can see a little bit of what's going on. But the Navy have it again, and they're driving for another try, and just caught on the line. But are they over? Yes, they are. It's another try for the Navy. Well, this is turning into a rout now. It's turning into an absolute rout for the Navy here, who have absolutely dominated this game, and they go to 37 points with the real opportunity, because it was so close to the post, for a conversion.
Again, you know, it come from an infringement by the Army. Navy kick to the corner is off their set piece again, and another visit to a 22 and another potentially 7 points, and you know, it's really good, efficient rugby. Like I said, you know, every time they've visited the 22, they've scored, and a sign of a really, really good side.
Yeah, and we will see whether Kieran Manson can add to that tally with the conversion. Takes the conversion now, goes up into the fog, flags go up, and that takes them to 39 points.
I think the message that leaders under the post now, from an Army perspective, need to say is we need to at least register a score. We need to get back up to the Navy 22, use these last 6 minutes to actually go score a try. You know, at least get something from the game.
It's very easy to be disheartened, isn't it? I suppose now, heads down for the Army. They've tried their very best, but they've been up against an outstanding Navy team this evening, who have, you know, right from the word go, have dominated this game. And the Army have never really had a period of solid domination, have they, at all in the match?
No, and I think that's competitive sport, and I think sometimes everyone that's involved in team sports has come across or been in an environment or an occasion like this, where no matter what you do, everything goes wrong, nothing goes right, and unfortunately you're then on the wrong end of the result. Yeah, it's really frustrating, and especially for young players as well, is seeing how they react and adapt to different scenarios and situations, and unfortunately some haven't got that experience now, because they're just coming into services rugby and don't understand the pressures and everything that comes with services rugby. And this is why academy under 23s is crucial to that, the development, to bleed them to go on, you know, and represent their respective service at senior level.
Well, there must be a lot of people in the senior service tonight thinking, hey, we have got a great chance at Twickenham if we can replicate this against the Army. But of course, that's to look forward to on May the 13th, when the two teams will meet. Before that, both sides will play the Royal Air Force, who had their own thoughts, and a chance then for another try for the Navy here. The ball bobbling around there, just inside the 22. Referee brings it back.
You know, is that simple thing. Does really well to turn, go back, collect the ball, and then look to run it back. But as running, just no contact whatsoever, and just spills the ball forward. It's those individual errors that collectively then makes a massive difference.
Message here from Jamie Doig. Thanks, guys. Another awesome under-23s campaign, and well done to the Royal Navy. Mal Roberts, I wish you, SJ and the family all the very best for the future. Your dedication to Army service rugby has been impeccable, and you've left the red shirt in a better place.
Thank you very much,
You
Jamie.
can't get better compliments than that, can you?
No, some very kind words from Jamie. Thank you.
Yeah. Rebecca Davis says the Navy have played an amazing game, and it's still going. And can they get themselves yet another try? 6 tries to their name already tonight. Going for a 7th, really going for the jugular here. It's just absolutely relentless from the team in dark blue. Man going for the line now is Charlie Davis. Collected again in the gloom. I'm just watching the monitor to see if we can really see who's heading for the line, but the referee's brought play back. Looks like it's going to be another opportunity, another penalty quickly taken by the Navy. Ravi's in there.
If I was the Navy, definitely go for the corner, catch and drive, try time.
Yep, for another try. And that's exactly what Kieran Manson has done.
That's for me, you know, it's just a really, really ruthless performance tonight by the Royal Navy, and deserved winners. You know, that everything they've done has been precise. It's been a couple of errors, but I think we can count those on one hand, John. They've been really efficient when they've got the 22, and deservedly every time come away with points.
Yeah, they have. It's been so efficient from them. Absolutely amazing work from them. And they are going for the line again, and they have yet another try, and this time it is their number 5, Charlie Davis, who has gone over. And that is amazing work. And in fact, Rebecca Davis, who I'm just reading a message out, says the Navy have played an amazing game. Shout out to Navy number 5, Charlie Davis. Proud mum and dad watching. You'll be even more proud because he's just crossed the line. Perfect timing.
Yeah, no, brilliant timing. You know, the Navy there literally went to the corner, catch and drive, set up for the drive and dummied the drive, and then peeled off the back and scored. And you know, it just shows that they've got more than one move in their armoury, which is great.
So difficult for the Army, must be completely demoralised now. We are into the final throws of this game. Going for goal for them is Ryan Scott this time. Left footer, aiming for 2 more points, and he skewed it wide from a very kickable position. 44 points to 3. Well, who would have believed we'd have a score like that, Mel?
Yeah, no, I genuinely thought it was going to be really more competitive than that. I thought the Army stood a really good chance, and you know, clearly that unconscious bias is coming through again, but I genuinely thought they were in with a really good shout, you know, with the coaching team that's surrounded and all the tools that they've given them. But unfortunately, sometimes you just don't get the rub of the green. I think the crucial thing though now is for the Army post-match is to stay really close and tight as a team, because you know this will hurt really bad. They just need to stay close together as a team. You know, you've got to celebrate victories, but you also got to come close in defeats.
Yeah, absolutely. Omitieli Catalu says, thank you so much for being a young side ready for the future.
And there we go again.
And here we go once more. Are they going for another try? They're absolutely going for the jugular. They really are. Absolutely relentless.
If they move it quick now to the left, they've definitely got numbers over.
Yeah. Ravi gets it. Brought to ground. Still the Navy pile forward. Dom Cleverley, the captain, wearing number 1. Magnificent performance from him, and all of them tonight. That looked like Charlie Davis again driving through. Some of these players have obviously played the full 80 minutes, looking very, very strong indeed. Referee pulls it back.
And, you know, I'm not sure which player took it deep in their own 22, but he set off and made a run of about 60 or 70 metres, which, you know, I think that pretty much sums up the running intent from the Navy this evening. They've been absolutely outstanding, running with that purpose, running with intent, and 9 times out of 10 making ground and making those line breaks, which has been instrumental.
Well, if you're a supporter of Royal Navy Rugby and you've not been with us this evening and you're just joining us, you probably won't believe what you're seeing on the screen, but it is 44 points to 3 in favour of the Royal Navy here. That's one of the heaviest defeats that the Army's under-23 side have ever suffered in this inter-services competition, and it's been so well deserved. The Navy have been absolutely relentless tonight. They played well against the Air Force a week ago when they won 24-7, but tonight they've just been in a different class and totally dominated this match from start to finish, which will have come as a real shock, I'm sure, to so many of the Army supporters who are here in Aldershot this evening, Mel.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, like we said earlier on in the match, it's definitely come as a bit of a shock to me. That, you know, having watched the Navy against the RAF on the live stream, you could tell that they were a good side and well drilled, well coached. But I didn't expect this result this evening.
We are into the last throws of this game, which I'm sure the Army will be very relieved about. I'm sure the Navy would just carry on all night if they could. And here they go one more time. Looking for, would you believe, another try. Just haven't stopped from start to finish. Ball goes high into the fog. Not quite sure who'll be underneath it. Well, it'll be someone from the Army or the Navy. But
it looks like the Navy might have retained that. Yeah. The Army are like shaping up defensively.
Coming forward. It's anyone's guess, but at least the Army are still trying. They're still giving it their best, giving it their all. Never give up. But it's getting close to that line again, isn't it? Not quite sure. Yeah, ball is actually a bit closer to us now.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that the play's coming back over this side.
Yes. Should be the law.
I'm not going to lie, from a Navy perspective now, definitely I was then going to say that, go for the corner kick and try to get 50.
Well,
that would be me.
If they can go for the half century of points, that really would put the icing on the cake for them. Ben Rees then with the put-in, with a throw-in for the line-out. Once again, dominant in the line-out. And who is that again? It's Davis. He's so close to the line. Absolutely dominating things there. Referee just checking. Ball is loose. Navy still have it. They've got the loose ball. And that is it.
And that is it.
Well, what an extraordinary performance from the Royal Navy. And you can see what it means to those young players running out onto the field. All of the replacements just charging over to their men. It's been a magnificent performance from the Royal Navy tonight. Just far too good for the Army on this night in Aldershot. And it's one I think we'll remember for an awfully long time, Mel.
Yeah, and from an Army perspective, not necessarily for the right reasons, but, you know, from a Navy perspective, what a great performance, you know, from start to finish, really efficient. You know, really pragmatic in their approach, not the best weather conditions in terms of visibility, but just played in the right areas and done the right thing at the right time. And you know, like I said earlier, it was definitely the side to win was going to be the side that made the less errors and played in the right areas. And just played in the right areas. And you know, the Navy done that this evening, and they just didn't do it, they executed it to perfection, and you know, the scoreline would suggest that as well.
I mean, Nick Bartlett, who's joining us again this evening, Nick, has just made a really good point actually, conceding only 10 points in the 2 inter-services games. That's a magnificent stat, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, definitely, because if you look at it from an academy under 23s perspective, the young lads like to play rugby, they like to run the ball, they like to move the ball around, so to sort of like concede only 10 points throughout the whole tournament is really, really impressive. And I'm not too sure who's doing the defensive coach for the Navy, but they definitely need our plaudits, and you know, because they've clearly done their job and homework and made the players buy into the systems that they've put in place.
From an Army point of view, certainly back to the drawing board for Gareth and his squad and his coaching team. What will he say to his players when they get into the dressing room? And is it just a question of, look, we need to pick ourselves up, we need to learn whatever we can from this?
Yeah, you know, straight after the event is never an easy time or space, because sometimes you can't do right for doing wrong, but I think it's crucial not to be too negative. The players will beat themselves up enough, and I think, you know, sometimes you just need to be honest with yourselves and realise when you've been beaten by a better team. And I think on this occasion, you know, the Army have been beaten by that better team, and I think, you know, you just need to remain upbeat. You need to be honest in the change rooms, and you know, perhaps say that performance wasn't good enough in a red shirt, but then just try to remain upbeat, make sure that the players stay really tight and close. And like I said, you know, not only do you understand each other when you have a great victory like this and have a couple of beers and celebrate each other's company, but it's also massively important to stay close and tight in a defeat as well.
And it's going to make life very interesting actually for Dave, isn't it? For Dave Pascoe, he's now got all these young players who are absolutely champing at the bit to get into the senior squad. He must have, you know, been looking at this tonight and thinking, my goodness me, I've got such a load of talent to choose from.
Yeah, you know, Dave be rubbing his hands quite clearly, but it's also quite crucial, because I had similar sort of last year with young JJ when he progressed up from the 23s and come into the senior setup, and it's crucial that you bleed the players at the right time, because you know there is a gulf between academy and 23s and the senior setup, so it's pretty crucial that they get some exposure, but you don't overexpose them too early, because that can have a detrimental effect as well.
Indeed. Well, we're going to have the presentations very shortly, and hoping that we can get a bit of reaction. I'm sure that the Royal Navy will definitely want to be just sort of lapping this one up as best they can, Mel, after a stunning performance tonight. And I'm sure even Owen Salmon would not have thought in his wildest dreams that his players could produce that.
No, it's brilliant, especially to come to the home of the Army and to put a performance in like that and to get that result and one to win the inter-service title. Yeah, you know, Owen be over the moon.
He will. Well, the presentations will be happening very, very shortly down in front of us, and that's something we will be able to see. I don't think the fog is quite that dense yet that we can't see the presentations, and you can see the players now,
which will be presented by Lieutenant General String.
Presentation time then, and it's going to be a very warming moment for the team in the dark blue shirts, as their captain Don Cleverley will come up and receive the trophy. Don gets the trophy, receives it now, and he's a very happy man, and they're a very happy bunch of lads, and quite rightly so, as they lift that trophy and celebrate the 2022 Inter-Services Under-23 title.
The Royal Air Force and the Army the Inter-Services Under-23 trophy as well.
That's the first trophy they've won for this match. The Army Navy does not know what to do with all the silverware.
No, I think that's the first time they've dropped it.
Well, these are great moments in the fog here in Aldershot. I mean, Mal, you've lifted so many trophies in your time with Army Rugby. There's nothing quite like it, is there? No,
there's not. You know, these boys will create memories and create stories for the rest of their lives. You know, for some of these lads, they'll go on and be fortunate enough to be capped at senior service level, but for some of them they won't, and some of them this will be their lasting memories of services rugby, and what a lasting memory to have.
It certainly is. For the Army, it's dust yourselves up, pick yourselves up and start all over again.
Yeah, there'll be some valuable lessons learned, and then, you know, the Army have got to use this negative and turn it into a positive if they can, and regroup and come back stronger.
Well, we're going to hear now, I think, from the Army's captain, Dom Cleverly, just lining up to talk to Kath Brazier down there on the pitch side there. We hear the Fijians singing now. Is that a wail, or is it a... I love hearing the Fijian players sing.
Yeah, it's always nice, and you know, where they play with a heart on their sleeves and they live their life in exactly the same way, and you know, it's not necessarily a song of celebration. I think in terms of rugby perspective, I think it's just a celebration of life in general, and it's really nice to see.
It is. Win or lose, the Fijians will always treat us to their magnificent singing.
And I must admit, it's really pleasing to see the Navy Fijian boys going to join in the circle as well, and that's what rugby's all about.
Yeah. Well, the scene was set, of course, earlier with that magnificent tribute earlier to Doddy Weir from all the rugby fans here in the stadium. Someone who's so sadly missed and has achieved so much and contributed so much during his time of illness. Lovely round of applause from the Navy players. Let's now see if we can hear from the Army captain, or the Navy captain I should say, Dom Cleverly, who's with Kath Brazier.
Come on, let's go, get in.
Okay, I'm here with the Under-23 Inter-Services winning captain, Dom Cleverly. I spoke to you last week, Dom. You're in a confident mood now. What are your feelings now?
Just feels amazing. All the hard work that we put in the last sort of couple of months has sort of finally paid off. We knew it wasn't going to be easy, but you know, we really stuck at it. You know, got back in over the week and then really prepared hard. And we really weren't going to be easy, but we turned up ready to go, and it pays off, paid dividends.
What's really important is you followed up a very convincing win last week with an even more convincing win, and I think that was what you needed to do to tell them, you know, this military community who's the best at the moment in Under-23 rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just goes to show the hard work you put in pays off. That's all I can say, really.
What are you most proud of? Because again, conditions were quite strange, especially with the second half. But you just definitely looked in control right from the start. Would you say that's the thing that would point out the most to you?
Yeah, we definitely. I don't think there was a point in the game where they really put a good foot forward. But I think that mainly puts to the fact that the pressure that we were putting on them just didn't really give them a chance to do it. They didn't really get any chance to explore their game because we shut them out, and that's just the way the game played.
Everyone had a really tough time during COVID. I know that speaking to Owen Salmon earlier, you guys seemed to suffer more so in terms of people being away and in numbers and getting people to come and play, and that's why the last couple of years you feel like you haven't done yourself justice. Yeah. But it's back in Navy arms, that you know, the silverware. I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, definitely really proud of it, especially after, like I mentioned in the last interview, sort of how last year played out for us. It really hurt. Because I was there, it really hurt, and I was keen more than ever to put my foot forward and, you know, really take it to both teams this year, and so we have.
And frankly, a lot of your players, I assume, the aim will be to play senior representative, and we've now got the dates for the Army-Navy game at Twickenham. That's something you sort of look forward to as well, and kind of a career highlight in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to put my best foot forward now in these games, to try and prove myself that I'm capable of playing at senior level. So yeah, that's it. Really.
Okay, Dom, please go and celebrate with your mates, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys. Cheers. Thank you.
Well, Dom Cleverly, a very happy man there as he runs off to join the rest of his team for the warm down and the celebrations that will no doubt follow. But what a magnificent performance from the Royal Navy tonight. Victors here, not just winning, but an absolute rout in the end. 44 points to 3, their victory over the Army here in Aldershot. Mal, a last comment from you perhaps on what has been a chastening evening for the team in red.
Yeah, I think, from a performance perspective, I think that's probably one of the best performances you'll see in an under-23 season. Really good, comprehensive win. And, the boys went out, the naval boys went out tonight and actually executed a plan down to a T. Really good performance, deserving champions.
Well, Mal, thanks so much for joining us tonight for your very considered thoughts on this game. That's it from us here from the fog in Aldershot. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage this evening, and it's certainly been a memorable night, of course, for Royal Navy under-23 rugby. From me, John Knighton, and all the team here in Aldershot, and all our team as well, preparing things back at our base back in Buckinghamshire. From all of us this evening, a very good night.